The heavy clang of a saucepan hitting the stove echoed through the tiny kitchen, breaking the late evening silence. Naomi Sinclair wiped sweat from her brow as steam rose from the boiling pot. It had been another grueling day at the diner, 10 hours of fake smiles, hot trays, and aching feet. Dinner tonight was going to be a quick throw together: pasta, some leftover veggies, and maybe a few slices of garlic bread if she had the energy. The apartment was too quiet. Normally, there'd be at least some noise, TV murmurs, footsteps, or even a door creaking. But tonight, it felt like the world had taken a deep breath and held it. Then, her phone buzzed on the counter. She ignored it at first, stirring the sauce, but something inside her prickled, a tingle in the back of her neck, an uneasy twitch in her chest. She reached for the phone, brushing tomato paste off her fingers. One new message, from Ethan, her husband. Subject line: "I'm sorry." She stared at the screen, blinking. A knot formed in her throat. Her thumb hovered for a second before she tapped it open. "Naomi, I know this is sudden, but I've left. I've met someone else. She's younger, exciting, and I feel alive again. I'm sorry, but I have to do this, for me. Oh, and about the loan, we signed it in your name. Please take care of it. You manage. I won't be reachable for a while." The phone nearly slipped from her hand. Her legs gave out, and she braced herself against the counter, breath coming in short bursts. The room spun. She read the message again. Then again. It didn't change. Ethan was gone. After 16 years. Just like that. Naomi's mind struggled to connect the dots. The loan. The loan. 2 years ago, Ethan had come to her with yet another big idea, a luxury landscaping company for high-end clients. He was always chasing the next big thing. But his credit was in ruins, so Naomi had agreed to sign. "It's for us," he had said. "For our future." Now she was the sole bearer of a $30,000 debt. And he was gone. The sauce burned. Smoke filled the kitchen. She turned off the stove with shaking hands and slumped to the floor, back against the cabinets, arms wrapped around her knees. Across the apartment, a door creaked. "Mom?" a soft voice asked. "Why's the fire alarm going off?" It was her 12-year-old son, Julian. She waved the smoke away, pushing herself up and forcing a smile through trembling lips. "Just forgot the timer. It's okay." Julian tilted his head. "Is Dad coming home tonight?" Her lips quivered. "No, baby. He's gone away for a while." He didn't speak for a few seconds. Then, quietly, he said, "Is it because of that woman? The one he keeps messaging?" Naomi's world tilted again. "What did you say?" "I saw her name. A couple of weeks ago." His phone was open. She sent a heart emoji. Her knees buckled again, but she stayed standing this time. Julian lowered his gaze. "I didn't say anything because I thought maybe I was wrong. Or that you already knew." Tears pricked her eyes. "You did nothing wrong, sweetheart." "I hate him," he said, softly. "I really, really do." Naomi tried to comfort him, but her arms felt like lead. That night, dinner was left uneaten. She lay awake on the couch, staring at the ceiling, her mind replaying every decision, every yes she'd ever given Ethan. The loan. The signature. The broken promises. She checked the bank accounts. The joint one had been drained. Rent was due in a week. Groceries were already a stretch. School fees. Utilities. Everything. Her phone buzzed again, another message. This time from the loan agency. Past due. Payment required immediately to avoid legal escalation. $30,000. And rising. How was she supposed to survive this? The next morning, Naomi pulled herself together enough to head to work. She dropped Julian off at school with a kiss on the forehead and a whispered, "We're going to be okay." But even she didn't believe that. Each shift felt like drowning with no surface in sight. Customers complained about cold eggs or the wrong syrup. Her boss side-eyed her drooping shoulders. Tips were weak. Her smiles were thinner. At night, she barely slept. It was day 5 when she noticed Julian acting strange. She found him late at night, hunched over his laptop in his room, typing furiously. He quickly minimized the screen when she walked in. "What are you doing?" she asked gently. He looked up, too quickly, a sly smile on his face. "Fixing something." "Fixing what?" He shrugged. "Don't worry, Mom. I've got it." She wanted to press, but exhaustion tugged at her bones. "Okay. Just don't do anything crazy." He nodded, but there was a glint in his eye she hadn't seen in weeks. She kissed his head. "Love you." "Love you too." Naomi didn't know it yet, but the quiet storm her son had started would soon change everything. The call came just after noon on a Tuesday, interrupting Naomi's short break at the diner. Her feet ached, she had grease on her apron, and the coffee in her hand had long since gone cold. She almost didn't answer, assuming it was another robocall or debt collector. But something in her gut twisted when she saw the caller ID, home. She picked up. "Julian?" His voice trembled. "Mom. I messed up." Instant alertness surged through her. "What's going on? Are you hurt?" No, but I did something. You need to come home. Please. Right now." Her heart dropped. "I'm on my way." 15 minutes later, Naomi pulled into their driveway like a storm. Julian stood on the front porch, pacing back and forth. When he saw her, he rushed to the car, opening the door before she even cut the engine. "Are you okay?" she asked, grabbing his shoulders. He nodded quickly. "Yeah. But I think I made things worse." She ushered him inside. "Tell me everything." Julian led her to the living room, where her old laptop sat open on the coffee table. Emails were pulled up, an entire conversation thread she hadn't seen before. Naomi squinted at the screen. Her email. Sent to Ethan? "You emailed him?" she asked, slowly. Julian winced. "I used your account. I figured. He wouldn't answer me if he knew it was me." "You pretended to be me?" "I just wanted to make him scared. Guilty. I told him the loan company was threatening legal action, that they might call it fraud. I said they'd investigate everything." Naomi's mouth dropped open. "Julian. I know it was risky." But he responded. He pointed to the screen. There it was, an email from Ethan. Short. Sharp. "Are you threatening me? You signed a loan. Don't blame me for your choices. You'll regret this." A chill ran down her spine. Julian bit his lip. Then someone else messaged back. A woman. Her name's Raina. "I think she's the one he ran off with." Naomi frowned. "What did she say?" He turned the screen. "Naomi, stop embarrassing yourself. Ethan's moved on. Maybe you should too. You weren't enough for him, and everyone knows it." Her fingers tightened into fists. She stared at the words like they were fire, and they burned. "I didn't stop there," Julian added, almost guiltily. "I told her I was a friend. That you were in serious trouble. That the authorities might investigate financial misuse. I wanted to scare them into paying us back." Naomi's breath caught. What happened next? Julian sat down, his shoulders folding inward. "He called me." "What?" I answered without thinking. Didn't say anything at first, but he figured it out. Said, "Naomi?" Then laughed. He said, "You must be Julian. You've got guts, kid. But you're playing a dangerous game." And then he hung up. The room fell silent. Naomi sank into the chair. The anger she felt earlier was now tangled with something deeper, fear. Not for herself. For her son. "You shouldn't have done this alone," she whispered. "You're 12. Julian's eyes welled up. "But you looked so tired, Mom. You looked broken. I had to try something. I didn't want you to give up." Her chest cracked open. She reached across the table, pulled him into her arms, and held him like she used to when he was a baby. "I'm supposed to protect you," she said through tears. "I know," he mumbled. "But maybe. Just this once, I wanted to protect you." They sat like that for a long time. That evening, As the sky darkened and another unpaid electricity bill sat on the counter, Julian quietly opened his laptop again. "I have something else to show you," he said. Naomi wiped her eyes. "More emails?" "No." He turned the screen. A location. A map blinked on screen, zoomed into a coastal town 3 hours away. A small blue dot pulsed on the edge of a beach. "What is this?" "Ethan's phone," Julian explained. "It's still linked to our old family tracker app. I checked. He's staying at a place called Seacrest Inn." Naomi stared. "You're telling me we know where he is?" Julian nodded. "We could go there. See how he's living. If he's using any of the loan money, we document it. Pictures. Transactions. Maybe even receipts. Then we have proof." Naomi's breath caught. She wanted to say no. That it was too dangerous, too much, too soon. But then she remembered the smug email. The emptied savings. The debt collectors. The laughter in Ethan's voice when he realized Julian was on the line. She thought of all the ways she'd been cornered and belittled. And then she looked at her son, so young, so brave, so determined. "All right," she said finally. "We'll go." "Really?" "Tomorrow morning. First light. But we do this together. No more pretending to be me. No more lies. Clear?" "Clear." He grinned, and for the first time in weeks, she saw something besides sadness in his face. She saw hope. They packed light, change of clothes, chargers, Naomi's laptop, a folder with all the original loan documents, and Julian's notebook, where he planned to take evidence notes. He insisted on bringing his camera, too. It was surreal. Naomi kept asking herself how she ended up here, tracking down her runaway husband with a 12-year-old leading the charge like a junior detective. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized. This wasn't just about money. It was about power. About standing up after being knocked down. About showing her son that even when you're broken, you can still fight back. They drove through the early morning mist in silence, the only sound the occasional rustle of a snack wrapper and the steady hum of the wheels on asphalt. Harbor View was as picturesque as the website said, coastal cottages, boardwalk cafes, gulls crying over the tide. It was where people came to relax, to forget. And Ethan had come to forget them. Julian checked the GPS again. He's still there. Seacrest Inn stood on a bluff overlooking the sea. Naomi parked across the street, heart pounding. They waited. And then they saw him. Naomi's fingers tightened around the steering wheel as the front door to Seacrest Inn creaked open. There he was. Ethan strolled out into the sunlight like a man without a care in the world. Tan. Relaxed. Wearing a linen shirt and sunglasses, the same kind he used to complain were a waste of money. He was laughing, as a tall, dark-haired woman stepped out beside him. Raina. The new flame. The one who had typed those venomous words, mocking the very life Naomi had spent years trying to hold together. Julian's voice cut through the stillness. "That's her." Naomi didn't need confirmation. The woman's expensive-looking dress, the way she leaned into Ethan, whispering something in his ear, it all screamed of someone who had been enjoying the high life, unbothered by the wreckage left behind. Her hands trembled, but she kept her voice calm. "This is our chance." Julian nodded, already holding his camera. Click. Click. He took quick snapshots through the windshield, of Ethan kissing Raina's cheek, paying for a cabana chair, and handing over what looked like a hotel-branded keycard. Naomi pulled out her phone and logged into her bank app. Just like she suspected, a recent transaction, marked Seacrest Inn, $312.50. From her card. Her throat tightened. That was her money. Click. Click. Julian caught a picture of Raina sipping champagne from a plastic flute, her sunglasses pushed onto her head. It looked like a scene from a travel ad, only Naomi knew the real story behind it. "They're spending like royalty," Julian muttered. "And I've been eating instant noodles all week," Naomi whispered. She grabbed her folder, her heart pounding as her blood roared in her ears. "We're not going back empty-handed." Julian looked up. Wait, what are you doing? She was already out of the car, crossing the street. The sun blazed above as Naomi marched straight toward the cafe where Ethan and Raina had taken a seat. Her legs shook, but her resolve was steel. Ethan looked up. His smile faded. Raina paused, mid-sip. Naomi stood tall. We need to talk. Ethan leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised. Naomi? Are you following me now? Naomi didn't flinch. I am here for the truth. He gestured dismissively. Not the time. I'm in the middle of something. Oh, I'm so sorry, she said, voice sharp. Did I interrupt your luxury vacation funded by my bank account? His jaw tensed. Keep your voice down. She stepped closer. You don't get to control how I speak anymore. Raina stood, folding her arms. Who is this? Naomi turned to her slowly. The wife. Or, should I say, the ex-wife to be. And you must be the woman who thought my life was some sad soap opera. Newsflash, it's not. Raina scoffed. You're being dramatic. Naomi raised her phone and opened the banking app again, scrolling to the transaction history. Did he also tell you the room you're staying in is on my credit? That I paid for those shrimp cocktails you two just enjoyed? Raina's smirk twitched. You're lying. Naomi showed her the screen. Am I? For a moment, Raina's face paled. Then she shot Ethan a glare. Is this true? He shifted in his seat. It's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. Naomi interrupted. And I've got more than a phone app. I've got documents, receipts, messages, proof that he used my name and signature to fund all of this after he abandoned us. Ethan's confidence cracked. You wouldn't really go to the police. I already did, Naomi lied, just enough steel in her voice to sell it. You want to test me? Ethan looked away. Raina turned to him, furious. You said this was handled. You said she signed off on it. Naomi couldn't help the bitter chuckle. Oh, I signed all right. For a business that failed, not a beachside affair. Julian stepped up beside his mother, folder in hand. Naomi hadn't even realized he'd followed her. I organized everything, he said, calmly. Photos, receipts, loan agreements, even the messages. We're ready if we need to talk to a lawyer. Ethan blinked at Julian. You brought him into this. Naomi put her arm protectively around her son. No. He stepped up. Unlike someone else. Raina narrowed her eyes at Julian. How old is he? Julian's gaze didn't waver. Old enough to know this is fraud. The wind shifted. People around them had started to notice. A waiter slowed down, eyeing the tension. The soft hush of the ocean was drowned out by the storm building in Naomi's chest. She pulled out one last paper, a demand letter. You have 72 hours to transfer the full amount back. I want receipts. If I don't see movement by then, I go to the police with everything. And this time, it won't be just a warning. Ethan looked down at the paper. I don't have that kind of money. Then find it, Naomi said. Sell the camper. Sell your watch. Sell the lies. Raina shook her head. I'm not going down for this. Oh, don't worry, Naomi said to her. This is his mess. But if you knew about it, well, I'm sure the police will decide how involved you really are. Raina turned and walked away, fast. Ethan called after her. She didn't look back. Naomi stepped back. You brought this on yourself. And with that, she turned, Julian by her side, and walked away. Back in the car, Naomi exhaled for what felt like the first time in hours. Her hands were still trembling, but inside, a strange calm had settled. Julian didn't speak. He didn't need to. They had done something impossible, they had stopped being victims. They had faced the villain. And they had won, at least this round. 3 days passed. No money came. No emails. Just silence. Then, on the 4th day, Naomi's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Naomi. Please don't hang up. It's me. It was Ethan. His voice was panicked, like a man who finally realized the sand beneath him was giving way. Someone came to the inn. Asking questions. About the camper. About the loan. They showed me papers. I think it's the bank. Or investigators. I'm screwed. Naomi closed her eyes. Then maybe you shouldn't have stolen from your own family. I panicked, he said. Raina left. Took the car. The last of the money's gone. I have nothing. Naomi's voice was calm. Cold. You made your choices. Now live with them. You don't get it. They said this could be fraud. Jail time. She almost laughed. Now you're worried about consequences? Please. Just tell me what to do. Naomi looked over at Julian, sitting on the couch doing his homework, calm and focused. I'll tell you what to do, she said. Take responsibility. Pay what you owe. Or I go to the police. And trust me, this time, it won't be just emails and warnings. Click. She hung up. Naomi didn't cry after she hung up on Ethan. She didn't shout, scream, or throw her phone against the wall, though every cell in her body pulsed with the urge to release something. Anything. Instead, she forwarded the entire conversation transcript, along with every screenshot, receipt, and document Julian had compiled, to her lawyer, Ms. Tran. By the next morning, Ms. Tran replied with words Naomi had been longing to hear. This is more than enough to begin the process of legal transfer and fraud documentation. Naomi exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. They had a case. Later that week, Naomi and Julian visited the local police department. She walked in not as a woman betrayed, but as a mother armed with truth. She handed over a folder packed with proof, emails, loan documents, GPS data, even bank statements that tied Ethan to unauthorized spending. Julian stood beside her, a silent partner in pursuit of justice. Detective Willis, a stocky man with a surprisingly gentle demeanor, flipped through the documents. His eyebrows lifted with each turn. This is substantial, he muttered. Naomi nodded. I want to report him for identity theft, financial abuse, and fraud. The detective looked at her, assessing, serious. Then he nodded. We're opening an investigation. Those words cracked something deep inside her. For weeks, she had questioned her sanity, replaying every moment, wondering if it was her fault, if she was just too trusting. But this was confirmation. She had been wronged. She was right to fight back. The next few weeks passed in a haze of legal forms, meetings, and emails. Naomi's stomach remained in knots. Each time her phone buzzed, she braced herself for another bombshell, another setback. But then came the phone call that shifted everything. Julian was home, doing math homework at the kitchen table, when Naomi's cell rang. This is Detective Willis, the voice said. We've apprehended Ethan Sinclair. She froze. He was attempting to withdraw funds from an account tied to a fraudulent loan in your name. We have his confession, and he's being charged with identity theft, fraud, and financial abuse. Naomi's knees gave out, and she sank onto the couch. Her hands trembled, but not from fear this time. From relief. Will he go to jail? She asked, almost whispering. That's up to the court, the detective replied. But with this evidence? It's likely. She hung up. Julian looked up. Was that about Dad? Naomi nodded, staring at the floor. He was arrested. Julian didn't cheer. He didn't smirk. He simply nodded and said, good. 1 month later, Naomi stood in a courtroom for the first time in her life. The ceiling arched high above, the air smelled like paper and lemon disinfectant, and the pews behind her creaked with every movement. Ethan sat across from her, in a wrinkled button-down, eyes hollow. The man who had once vowed to protect her now looked like a stranger, his arrogance drained, his smugness replaced by anxiety. Naomi almost didn't recognize him. The judge reviewed the evidence presented, receipts, loan documentation, credit card statements, and Ethan's own confession. You willingly forged electronic authorizations under your spouse's name? The judge asked. Ethan nodded, quietly. Yes. The judge tapped his gavel against the bench. You are hereby ordered to pay full restitution of all funds acquired through fraud. That includes both loans, unauthorized credit card expenses, and missed payments. Your wages will be garnished. Furthermore, you are sentenced to 60 days in county jail and 18 months probation. You will also pay monthly child support to Ms. Sinclair." Naomi didn't smile. She didn't smirk. She simply nodded. Justice had spoken. As the courtroom emptied, Ethan tried to meet her eyes. She turned her back before he could speak. Julian stood beside her, holding the same folder that had become their symbol of resistance. When they walked out of the courthouse, Naomi felt a weight lift from her shoulders, a weight she didn't even realize she'd been carrying since the night Ethan's email arrived. The hard part wasn't over. Not yet. But the road ahead was finally theirs. In the months that followed, life began to take on a new shape. The first fraudulent loan was officially dissolved after the court's fraud ruling. The second, opened behind Naomi's back, was closed and written off by the lender after full police verification. Her credit started to recover. She received a small raise at the diner after being promoted to assistant shift manager. It wasn't much, but it was stability. For the first time in years, she opened a bank account that was hers alone, no shared names, no risk of someone wiping it clean while she slept. They moved to a smaller apartment just outside of the city. It wasn't fancy, but it was safe. Quiet. Theirs. Julian flourished. His school counselor said he was more focused, more confident. He started a blog, Little Justice, where he posted stories about legal heroes, underdog victories, and personal reflections on standing up when the world pushes you down. Naomi read every entry. Each post was a love letter to resilience. One night, over homemade chili and cornbread, Julian looked up from his plate. "Mom?" "Yeah, baby. Are you happy now?" She paused. "I'm getting there." He smiled, and she saw that spark in his eyes again, the one Ethan could never dim. "Me too." This was never just a story about a man walking out. It wasn't just about money, or revenge, or legal papers. It was about survival. It was about teaching a child that you don't lie down when someone tries to crush you. You rise. Even when it hurts. Even when you're scared. Even when you don't think you can. And Naomi had done that. She didn't let Ethan break her. Instead, she taught her son what strength looked like, not in anger or power, but in quiet defiance, steady resolve, and an unbreakable heart. 6 months later, the morning sunlight filtered softly through the curtains of their new apartment. The walls were still a little bare, the furniture secondhand, but to Naomi and Julian, it felt like a palace. Each morning began with peace, not luxury, not perfection, but peace. The past few months had been a slow and steady climb. Not every day was easy, but every day moved them forward. Bit by bit, Naomi was stitching her life back together, one hard-earned piece at a time. She had finally cleared her name from the fraudulent debts Ethan had left behind. Between the court ruling, the dissolution of the loans, and her lawyer's relentless effort, Naomi's financial records were slowly being repaired. Her credit, which had been decimated, was now improving. She'd qualified for a secured credit card, just a small start, but hers alone. A symbol of autonomy. She didn't think she'd ever trust easily again. But she had learned how to trust herself. Julian had changed too. His teacher described him as more focused, more mature than ever. He had always been smart, but now he was channeling his energy into something that surprised even Naomi, a blog. It was called Little Justice. At first, Naomi had assumed it was just a project for class. But Julian kept writing. Every week, a new story went up, some based on news articles, others inspired by their own experience. He never used their real names. He was too smart for that. But the stories spoke of children standing up for their families, of people who refused to let life crush them. Naomi read each post like it was scripture. One day, while Julian was at school, she sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, coffee in hand, reading a post titled, "The Storm That Taught Me to Build." He tried to take everything. Money, peace, even our home. But he forgot something. He forgot what my mom is made of. Not just strength, but the kind that grows quietly while the world burns. He taught me what betrayal looks like. But she taught me what survival looks like. I'll never forget that. JS, age 13. Naomi closed the laptop, tears filling her eyes. They weren't tears of sadness anymore. They were something else. Something healing. She wiped her eyes and whispered, "That's my boy." The day Ethan was released from his 60-day sentence, Naomi received an email from her lawyer. It wasn't from Ethan directly. He'd been ordered by the court to communicate only through official channels. He had started his monthly repayment plan, $600 a month, as mandated. Naomi read the message and filed it away without emotion. She didn't care about the apology he'd tacked on at the end. She didn't care about his mention of rebuilding. She didn't even care that his probation meant he couldn't leave the state or open any financial accounts without court approval. She had already moved on. Ethan had become just a name on legal documents, a person in the rearview mirror. And that's where he would stay. A few weeks later, Naomi and Julian were at the grocery store, arguing playfully about which cereal to buy when they bumped into an old friend, Aunt Mina, as Julian used to call her, though she was technically Naomi's former co-worker. "Naomi," Mina gasped, arms outstretched. "I heard about everything. I mean, everything. Girl. You've been through it." Naomi smiled, a little awkward but genuine. "Yeah. It's been a year." Julian stood behind the cart, eyeing the grown-ups with the patience of a seasoned observer. "But look at you," Mina said. "You look lighter. Freer. You're glowing, Naomi." Naomi paused. She hadn't felt like she was glowing. Just surviving. But maybe Mina was right. Maybe there was something different now, some subtle shift in the way she held herself, or the way her laugh no longer came with guilt. Maybe healing wasn't about forgetting or pretending it never happened, but about owning it, and rising anyway. "Thanks," Naomi said, smiling wide. "It means a lot." Before they left, Mina squeezed her arm. "You ever need anything, you call me." Naomi nodded. But in her heart, she knew something had changed. She didn't need saving anymore. That night, as they ate dinner, mac and cheese, Julian's favorite, he looked up from his plate with a thoughtful expression. "Mom? Do you think it's okay to still be angry at him?" Naomi swallowed, then put her fork down. "Yeah. I think it's okay. Sometimes anger sticks around because it's trying to protect us. It reminds us what we won't allow anymore." Julian nodded. "I just don't want to turn out like him." She leaned forward, brushing the hair from his forehead. "You won't. You already chose a different path. Every time you stood up, every time you told the truth, every time you helped me, you were proving who you really are." Julian looked down at his plate again, his voice softer this time. "I just wanted to help you. I didn't want to feel powerless." "You weren't," she said. "You were the spark that lit the whole fire." They clinked their glasses of orange juice like wine. "To new beginnings," Naomi said. Julian smiled. "To justice." In the months that followed, Naomi began volunteering at a local support group for women who had experienced financial abuse and manipulation. It wasn't a big role. She helped set up chairs, made coffee, handed out tissues. But when she spoke, people listened. Because her story wasn't just cautionary, it was empowering. She started calling it her Phoenix year. The year she burned down, then rose from her own ashes. Julian's blog gained quiet attention. One post was even shared by a national parenting forum. His counselor nominated him for a local youth leadership award. Naomi beamed at the ceremony, clutching his certificate like it was a trophy made of gold. Life wasn't flashy or easy. But it was theirs. One night, after watching a movie and snuggling on the couch, Julian looked up at her. "Hey, Mom?" "Yeah, babe? Do you think we're ever gonna have a normal life again?" Naomi thought for a long moment. The word normal felt too small now. What did it even mean? She smiled. No. I don't think we'll ever have a normal life. Julian blinked. But, she added, pulling him close, I think we're going to have an extraordinary one. He grinned and leaned into her shoulder. Yeah. I like that better.